Imagine a band so controversial that newspapers called them a threat to society. A band that frightened politicians, outraged parents, and sent television executives into full panic mode. They released only one studio album. They existed for less than 3 years, yet they changed Britain forever. This is the story of how 4 young punks became the most hated band in the United Kingdom, and why the Sex Pistols shocked an entire nation. To understand why the Sex Pistols caused such outrage, you first have to understand Britain in the mid-1970s. The country was struggling, factories were closing, inflation was soaring, unemployment was rising, especially among young people. Strikes disrupted daily life, and many believed Britain had lost its direction. For millions of teenagers, the future looked hopeless. Popular rock music wasn't helping. The biggest bands filled stadiums with elaborate performances, expensive equipment, and songs that seemed disconnected from everyday life. To many young people, rock had become a business instead of a rebellion. Then, in 1975, everything began to change. At a small clothing shop on London's King's Road called Sex, 2 fashion designers, Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood, were creating clothes meant to provoke society. McLaren believed Britain needed a band that would challenge everything people accepted as normal. He soon found the perfect frontman. A teenager named John Lydon walked into the shop wearing a Pink Floyd t-shirt with the words "I hate" scribbled across it. His bright green hair and defiant attitude immediately caught McLaren's attention. John Lydon became Johnny Rotten. Alongside guitarist Steve Jones, drummer Paul Cook, and bassist Glenn Matlock, later replaced by Sid Vicious, the Sex Pistols were born. They weren't polished musicians. That wasn't the point. They represented anger, frustration, chaos, and above all, they refused to follow the rules. Their performances were loud, aggressive, and unpredictable. Some audiences loved them, many more hated them. But almost everyone who saw them remembered them. The British press quickly labelled them dangerous. Yet the controversy only made them more popular. Then came the moment that changed everything. December 1st, 1976. The Sex Pistols were invited onto a live evening television program hosted by veteran presenter Bill Grundy. Originally, another guest had cancelled at the last minute. The band became the replacement. No one expected history to be made that evening. At first, the interview seemed awkward but harmless. Grundy appeared dismissive of the young musicians. He teased them, he mocked their appearance, and he tried to provoke them. Eventually, Johnny Rotten and guitarist Steve Jones responded with profanity during the live broadcast. By today's standards, the language might seem mild. But in 1976 Britain, it was shocking. Millions of viewers had never heard such words spoken on live television. The next morning, newspapers exploded. One headline famously described the band as the filth and the fury. Parents demanded action. Politicians condemned them. The Sex Pistols became public enemy number 1 almost overnight. The fallout was immediate. Concert venues cancelled performances. Record labels became nervous. Sponsors disappeared. People who had never heard a Sex Pistols song suddenly knew their name. Ironically, the scandal accomplished something no advertising campaign ever could. It made the Sex Pistols famous. Their notoriety spread across Britain at incredible speed. To supporters, they represented honesty. To critics, they symbolized the collapse of morality. There was almost no middle ground. The band had become much more than musicians. They had become a national debate, and this was only the beginning. Because just months later, during Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee celebrations, the Sex Pistols would release a song that many considered the most offensive record in British history. A song that would cement their reputation forever. In the spring of 1977, Britain was preparing for one of its biggest national celebrations. Queen Elizabeth II was marking her Silver Jubilee 25 years on the throne. Across the country, streets were decorated with Union Jack flags. Communities organized parades and celebrations. It was meant to be a moment of national pride. Then the Sex Pistols released a song called God Save the Queen. The title borrowed the name of Britain's national anthem, but the lyrics delivered a fierce criticism of the British establishment. The song questioned authority, challenged tradition, and expressed the frustration felt by many young people who believed they had been left behind. To fans, it was a powerful protest. To critics, it was an unforgivable insult. The reaction was immediate. Several major radio stations refused to play it. The BBC banned it from its broadcasts. Some record stores refused to stock it. Television appearances were cancelled. Yet the controversy only fueled public curiosity. Despite the bans, the single sold in huge numbers. Many fans believed it should have reached #1 on the UK charts. Instead, it peaked at #2, a result that has remained controversial for decades, with some arguing the rankings were influenced by pressure to avoid having such a provocative song at the top during the Jubilee. Then came one of the band's most unforgettable stunts. To promote the single, the Sex Pistols performed aboard a boat on London's River Thames. As the vessel passed landmarks near the Houses of Parliament, the band blasted God Save the Queen while celebrating fans looked on. Police eventually intervened. Several people connected with the event were arrested. Once again, the headlines were everywhere. By now, the Sex Pistols were no longer just a punk band. They had become a symbol. They represented everything that was wrong with modern Britain. To others, they represented the freedom to question authority. The divide could not have been greater. Behind the scenes, however, the band's success came at a price. Constant media attention created enormous pressure. Internal conflicts grew worse. Substance abuse became a serious problem. The arrival of bassist Sid Vicious brought even more publicity, but also greater instability. Although Sid became the band's most recognizable image, his struggles with addiction increasingly overshadowed the music itself. By early 1978, tensions had reached a breaking point. After a disastrous tour of the United States, Johnny Rotten walked off stage after the final performance and asked the audience a question that has since become legendary. Ever get the feeling you've been cheated? Soon afterward, he left the band. Just like that, the Sex Pistols were over. Less than 3 years after they had formed, the most controversial band in Britain had collapsed. Yet their influence was only beginning. Their only studio album, Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, would become one of the most influential records in rock history. It inspired countless musicians around the world. Bands in Britain, America, Europe, and beyond embraced the punk movement that the Sex Pistols had helped ignite. More importantly, they proved that you didn't need expensive studios, technical perfection, or industry approval to make music that mattered. All you needed was something to say. Today, more than 4 decades later, the debates continue. Were the Sex Pistols reckless troublemakers? Or were they simply holding up a mirror to a society already filled with frustration and inequality? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between. Their music offended many people. Their behavior often crossed the line. but their impact on popular culture is impossible to deny. The Sex Pistols didn't just create controversy. They forced Britain to confront uncomfortable questions about class, politics, freedom of expression, and the growing disconnect between ordinary people and those in power.